The mockery. Ambassador Lauren Hayes stood at the viewing window of the Celeran diplomatic vessel, watching as the Galactic Council members filed out of the grand meeting hall. His slender fingers tightened around the datapad he held, knuckles turning pale blue with frustration. Once again, his warnings had fallen on deaf ears. "Ambassador," a soft voice called from behind. "The captain requests your presence on the bridge." Lauren nodded without turning. He needed a moment to compose himself. The Celeran people were respected throughout the galaxy for their technological achievements, artistic contributions, and medical advancements. Yet when it came to matters of security, they were treated like naive children. He finally turned away from the window. His aide, Nira, waited with patient eyes that couldn't quite hide her concern. "Let me guess," Lauren said. "Another message from the homeworld asking for an update." Nira nodded. "The High Council is eager to hear if the galactic representatives took our warning seriously this time." "They did not," Lauren replied, walking toward the corridor. Councillor Dreth actually laughed. "Said we should stick to healing the sick and leave defense matters to species with a backbone." The corridor of the ship reflected the Celeran aesthetic. Flowing organic curves, soft blue lighting, and living plants integrated into the design. It was beautiful, peaceful, and utterly unlike the militaristic vessels of most galactic powers. On the bridge, Captain Mira Ellis looked up from her console. Unlike many Xylarans, her expression was not serene but openly frustrated. "I watched the session," she said. "The Dracon representative called us evolutionary dead ends this time." "That's a new one," Lauren sighed. "4 colonies have reported Draxan scout ships in their systems. We have the sensor data, the evidence, and still, the Council refuses to acknowledge the threat. Because acknowledging it would mean they'd have to do something about it," Mira replied. "And none of them want to risk provoking the Draxans." Lauren moved to the central display, where a map of nearby star systems glowed softly. "We built this civilization on principles of peace. We chose diplomacy over weapons, healing over harming. And now we're seen as easy prey," Mira finished. An officer approached with another datapad. "Ambassador, we've received a report from our long-range exploration vessel in Sector 47. Lauren accepted the pad, scanning the information. His expression shifted from resignation to curiosity. "They'd found something interesting." The officer nodded. "A previously uncatalogued sentient species. The planet is called Earth." Mira joined them, peering at the report. "Technology level. Early space exploration. Limited to their own system. But their development rate is unusual." Lauren studied the images. The beings looked somewhat similar to Xylarans, though their skin tones varied wildly, and they lacked the characteristic blue undertones. Their cities sprawled across their world with little order or harmony. "They appear to be quite aggressive," Mira noted, watching footage of what appeared to be military exercises. Lauren zoomed in on one image. 2 humans helping another who had fallen. "Yes, but look here. They also show remarkable cooperation and compassion." "Why is this relevant to our current crisis?" Mira asked. Lauren looked up, a new idea forming. "The Council mocks us for our peaceful nature. They refuse to help because they see no benefit in protecting a species that won't fight back. And perhaps we need allies who see the world differently than we do. Allies who understand conflict in ways we don't." Mira's eyes widened. "You're suggesting we approach these humans, a primitive species with no standing in galactic politics." Lauren smiled for the first time that day. "The greatest strengths often come from unexpected places, Captain. Perhaps it's time we explored options beyond the Council's narrow vision." He handed the datapad back to the officer. "Prepare a first contact protocol. I want to know everything about these humans, their strengths, their weaknesses, their values." As the officer hurried away, Lauren turned back to the star map, focusing on the small, unassuming system where Earth sat. "The galaxy has laughed at us long enough," he said quietly. Let's see if we can change the conversation. Commander Kate Wilson pressed her face closer to the viewing screen, fascinated by the blue-green planet below. Earth looked so small from here, yet it was all humanity had ever known. Until today. Maintain orbit distance, she ordered, and keep the cloaking systems active. The Celeran scout ship, Horizon Seeker, had been observing Earth for 3 weeks now. They had intercepted television broadcasts, radio signals, and internet communications, building a preliminary understanding of human society. "Commander," said Science Officer Trull, "I've been studying their conflict patterns. They're quite unusual." Kate moved to his station, where images of human history played across multiple screens. "These humans fight constantly," Trull continued. "They've had thousands of wars throughout their history. Yet look here." He pointed to footage of rescue workers pulling people from a collapsed building. "They show remarkable compassion, even to strangers. It's contradictory." "Not contradictory," Kate said. "Complex. They protect what they care about fiercely." Lieutenant Venn approached with new data. "Commander, we've detected a military vessel approaching our position. Their sensors aren't sophisticated enough to detect us, but they seem to be investigating an anomaly our engines created." Kate made a quick decision. "Perhaps it's time we introduced ourselves." "Ambassador Hayes ordered observation only," Venn reminded her. "The ambassador also said we need allies. We've learned all we can from a distance," Kate replied. She tapped her communication panel. "Prepare a first contact message. Basic grading protocol. Translate to their most common language." Minutes later, Captain John Murphy of the U.S. Defender stared in disbelief at the message appearing on his ship's communications screen. "Sir," his communications officer said, voice shaking, "we're receiving a transmission in English. From, well, it claims to be from a non-human vessel." Murphy read the message twice. "Greetings from the Celeran Cooperative. We come in peace and wish to establish dialogue. Please respond if willing to communicate." "Could be a prank," his executive officer suggested. "From orbit." Murphy shook his head. "Scan again." "Sir, there's definitely something there now. A ship just appeared. It's unlike anything in our database." Murphy straightened his uniform. 20 years in the Navy had never prepared him for this moment. "Open a channel," he ordered. Within hours, arrangements were made for a secure meeting. The alien ship deployed a small shuttle to a remote naval facility. Security teams stood ready as the craft landed with barely a sound. When the door opened, Murphy fought to keep his expression neutral. The aliens were humanoid, but clearly not human. Tall and slender, with pale blue-tinted skin and large, expressive eyes. Commander Kate Wilson stepped forward first. "Captain Murphy," she said in carefully practiced English, "I am Commander Kate Wilson of the Celeran Cooperative." "You have human names," Murphy noted, suspicious. Kate smiled. "We chose names from your culture for this meeting. My actual name would be difficult for you to pronounce." The tension slowly eased as initial introductions were made. Kate explained the Celeran situation, their peaceful civilization, their advanced technology, and the growing threat they faced. "You've been watching us," Murphy said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Kate admitted. "We needed to understand your species before making contact." "And what did you learn?" Kate looked directly at him. "That humans are survivors. That you fight for what you believe in. That despite your violent history, you strive for peace and cooperation." Murphy considered this. "And now you want something from us." "Eventually, perhaps," Kate said. "Today, we simply want to begin a dialogue. My government proposes a cultural exchange. A small delegation from Earth to visit our homeworld." Murphy's expression remained guarded, but curiosity flickered in his eyes. "I'll need to inform my superiors," he said. "This goes well beyond my authority." Kate nodded. "Of course. We understand this is unexpected. But Captain Murphy, know this. The galaxy is larger and more dangerous than your people realize. We believe humanity has much to offer, and much to gain through alliance. As they continued talking, neither fully realized the historic importance of this moment, the first step toward a partnership that would soon reshape galactic politics forever. Scientist Olivia Martinez couldn't stop touching the walls of the Celeran Research Center. They felt warm, almost alive under her fingertips. "It's a living biocomposite," explained her guide, a Celeran scientist named Zila. "The building grows rather than being constructed." "Incredible," Olivia whispered. She was one of 5 humans selected for the first cultural exchange mission to Xilora. 3 months after first contact, humanity was still reeling from the knowledge they weren't alone in the universe. Across the facility, engineer Peter Jackson was equally fascinated by the Celeran power systems. Unlike Earth's clunky fusion reactors, their energy technology captured ambient stellar radiation with perfect efficiency. The conversion process occurs at the quantum level, his Celeran counterpart explained. "We've used this technology for centuries." Peter shook his head in amazement. "On Earth, we're still burning fossil fuels in many places." The Celeran seemed surprised. "Yet your weapon systems are remarkably advanced. The targeting algorithms in your missile defense systems are quite elegant." Peter shifted uncomfortably. It was becoming clear why the Celerans had sought contact with humans. Their technological development had followed a completely different path. Healing instead of harming, building instead of destroying. In the diplomatic quarter, Ambassador Lauren Hayes hosted Captain John Murphy for a traditional Celeran meal. Their initial wariness had gradually transformed into cautious friendship. "Your people have accomplished much," Murphy said, sampling a fruit that tasted like honeyed peach. "I've never seen medical technology like yours. The regeneration therapy your doctors showed us could save millions of lives on Earth." Lauren nodded. "We've focused our development on improving life, not taking it." "You say that like it's a failing," Murphy observed. "In the eyes of the galactic community, it is." Lauren's expression darkened. "They see us as weak because we lack significant military capacity." Murphy considered this. "On Earth, we've learned that strength takes many forms. Sometimes the strongest position is building alliances." "Is that why you accepted our invitation? To form an alliance?" "Honestly, we came because humans are curious." Murphy smiled. "But what we're seeing here could change everything for Earth. Your medical technology, sustainable energy systems, faster than light travel." Lauren leaned forward. "And what could Earth offer Xilora in return?" Murphy met his gaze. "Protection, perhaps. You've been honest about the threats you face." Later that evening, Olivia Martinez discovered something unexpected while examining Celeran communication technology. Their quantum entanglement systems operated on frequencies remarkably compatible with human neural patterns. "This is astonishing," she told Zila. "The interface could be adapted for human use with minimal modifications." Zila's eyes widened. "Such compatibility is extremely rare between species." Word of this discovery quickly reached Ambassador Hayes. The implications were profound. Celeran technology could be integrated with human systems far more easily than anyone had anticipated. Meanwhile, Peter Jackson had assembled a prototype combining a human tactical targeting system with Celeran power technology. The resulting device was smaller, faster, and more powerful than anything Earth had developed. "This shouldn't work," he muttered as the successful test results appeared on his screen. "Our technologies evolved independently across thousands of light years." As the week-long visit neared its end, the human delegation met with the Celeran High Council. What had begun as a simple cultural exchange had revealed an unexpected technological symbiosis. "It appears our peoples complement each other in unexpected ways," the Celeran High Counselor stated. Captain Murphy nodded. "My government will want to establish formal diplomatic relations. This could be the beginning of something remarkable for both our worlds." Ambassador Hayes watched the humans with newfound hope. For centuries, the galaxy had dismissed Celeran pacifism as weakness. Now, perhaps they had found allies who understood that different kinds of strength, when combined, could create something greater than either possessed alone. As the meeting concluded, no one present could have predicted just how soon that combined strength would be tested. The emergency alarm pierced through the Celeran High Council chamber, its urgent tone interrupting Ambassador Lauren Hayes mid-sentence. The display screens around the circular room flashed red, showing a fleet of dark, angular ships approaching a distant point of light. "Nilara colony," whispered one council member, horror evident in her voice. Lauren watched as the Draxan warships descended upon the peaceful Acceleran settlement. Nilara was home to nearly 50,000 civilians, scientists, and artists. The colony had no defensive capabilities. "We're receiving distress signals," reported a communications officer, her hands trembling as she worked the controls. "They're asking for immediate evacuation support." "How many ships can we dispatch?" asked the High Counselor. "3 civilian transports are within range," came the reply. "But they won't arrive for at least 6 hours." The room fell silent as they watched the attack unfold. The Draxans were methodical, targeting communication arrays first, then power systems. They weren't destroying the colony outright. They were claiming it. 2 days later, Lauren stood before the Galactic Council once again. The vast chamber felt colder than usual as representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations looked down at him from their elevated seats. The Celeran Cooperative formally requests intervention against Draxan aggression, Lauren stated, his voice echoing. "Nilara colony has fallen. The civilian population is being held captive." Councillor Dreth of the Merlian Confederation leaned forward. "While regrettable, this situation is hardly unexpected. The Draxan Empire has been expanding its territory for decades. They attacked a peaceful settlement without provocation," Lauren countered. "A settlement rich in rare minerals," noted the Vesh representative. "The Celerans have long been aware of the strategic value of the Nilara system, which justifies invasion." Lauren's voice rose slightly. The council chair raised a hand for silence. "The unfortunate reality, Ambassador Hayes, is that the council cannot risk direct confrontation with the Draxan Empire over a single colony. We recommend diplomatic negotiations for the release of your citizens." Lauren looked around the chamber, seeing the mixture of pity and indifference on the faces of the galactic representatives. Some wouldn't meet his gaze at all. "You mock us for our pacifism," he said quietly, "then abandon us when we're attacked. What is the purpose of this council if not to prevent such aggression?" "The purpose is to maintain galactic stability," the chair replied coldly. "The Celeran situation, while unfortunate, does not threaten that stability." Back on the Celeran homeworld, Captain John Murphy received the news with growing concern. He had remained as Earth's official representative, establishing the first human embassy on an alien world. "The Galactic Council refused to help," Lauren told him, slumping into a chair in Murphy's office. "As we expected." Murphy's jaw tightened. "How many hostages?" "Nearly 40,000. Lauren looked up. "Intelligence suggests the Draxans plan to use Nilara as a foothold to launch further incursions into our territory. And your people can't fight back. We have ships, but they're research vessels, civilian transports. Nothing that could stand against Draxan warships." Lauren hesitated. "John, I need to make a formal request to your government." Murphy nodded slowly. "For military assistance?" "Yes." Lauren's voice was barely audible. "We've never asked another species to fight for us before." On Earth, President Susan Coleman sat at the head of a long table in the Situation Room. Military advisors, scientists, and diplomats filled the chairs around her. Captain Murphy's report was displayed on the main screen. "The Celarans are asking for our help," she summarized, "against an advanced hostile force." "Madam President, with respect, this isn't our fight," said General Rivers. "We barely have spacecraft capable of reaching Mars, let alone engaging in interstellar conflict." Dr. Martinez, recently returned from Celara, spoke up. "But we do have military technology that could be adapted to Celeran ships. Their energy systems combined with our weapons systems could be effective." The room erupted in heated debate. Some argued that humanity could not afford to get involved in an alien war. Others insisted that the technological benefits of the Celeran alliance were too valuable to lose. President Coleman listened carefully, then raised her hand for silence. "If we abandon the Celerans now," she said, "what message does that send? That humans only care about what they can gain." She shook her head. "We help our allies. That's who we are." She turned to her military advisors. "Develop a response plan. We're going to help the Celerans." The massive Celeran research vessel floated silently in orbit, its sleek organic lines contrasting sharply with the boxy human military shuttle docked alongside it. Inside, the vessel had been transformed. What once was a peaceful scientific laboratory now buzzed with activity as humans and Celerans worked side by side. Engineer Peter Jackson stood before a holographic display, pointing at a schematic of the ship's power core. Around him, a team of human weapons specialists and Celeran engineers watched intently. "The conversion is simple in theory," Peter explained. "Your quantum energy matrix can power our missile guidance systems with minimal modification. The output is 5 times what our best power cells can produce." A Celeran engineer named Tren looked concerned. "This vessel was designed for atmospheric sampling, not combat." "Which is exactly why the Draxans won't expect it to be a threat," replied Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez, a tactical specialist from Earth. "We're not turning your ships into warships. We're giving them defensive capabilities." Across the ship, Dr. Olivia Martinez worked with Medical Officer Zila on another critical system. Their fingers danced across holographic controls as they fine-tuned a neural interface. "The translator needs to work flawlessly in combat situations," Olivia insisted. "Split-second communication could mean the difference between life and death." Zila nodded. "The quantum resonance pattern is stable. It should allow your military personnel to understand our ship captains instantly." On the bridge, Captain John Murphy stood with Ambassador Lauren Hayes, watching as human tactical displays were integrated with Celeran sensor systems. The result was something neither civilization could have created alone. "Your people learn quickly," Lauren observed. Murphy smiled grimly. "Humans have thousands of years of experience preparing for war. It's not something I'm proud of, but it's useful now. The Galactic Council is calling this alliance desperate and doomed to failure," Lauren said quietly. The Vesh representative actually laughed when he heard humans were helping us. "Let them laugh," Murphy replied. "They don't understand what humans can do when backed into a corner." In the ship's converted cargo bay, now a training area, Lieutenant Sam Foster was teaching Celeran crew members basic combat maneuvers. "You don't need to become warriors," he explained to the uncomfortable-looking aliens. "But you need to understand defensive positioning. If your ship is boarded, these techniques could save your lives." One Celeran, a slender female named Nira, was adapting more quickly than the others. "Like this?" she asked, successfully executing a defensive stance. "Exactly," Sam nodded approvingly. "Remember, this isn't about aggression. It's about protection, something your people already understand." Meanwhile, in a secure facility on the Celeran homeworld, a joint command center had been established. President Susan Coleman's face appeared on a large screen as she spoke with the Celeran High Council. "The first wave of retrofitted ships will be ready within 3 days," she reported. "Our specialists have completed training your crews on the new defensive systems." The Celeran High Counselor bowed slightly. "We are deeply grateful for Earth's assistance. Many other species would have demanded technological exchange before offering help." "That will come in time," President Coleman replied. "Right now, our priority is protecting your people and stopping the Draxan advance." News of the human Celeran alliance had spread quickly through galactic channels, mostly met with ridicule. The Draxans themselves had issued a dismissive statement, calling it a partnership of weaklings that changes nothing. Engineer Jackson was working late one night when he achieved a breakthrough. By combining human missile technology with Celeran energy fields, he created a weapon that could penetrate Draxan shields. "It works," He whispered as the simulation showed successful results for the fifth time. His Xylaran colleagues gathered around the display, their expressions mixing hope with disbelief. "The energy signature is unlike anything in known space," one said in awe. "The Draxan defense systems won't recognize it to block it." As the prototype was rushed into production, a sense of cautious optimism began to spread through the Alliance. The Xylarans, for the first time, felt they might have a chance to defend themselves. The humans, despite their technological disadvantages, had brought something invaluable to the partnership, innovation born from centuries of conflict. 3 days later, a fleet of 30 retrofitted Xylaran vessels prepared to depart. Their mission: to protect the next likely Draxan target, a Xylaran mining colony in the Travalis system. No one knew if their hastily prepared defenses would be enough. But as human tactical officers took their positions alongside Xylaran captains, one thing was certain: the galaxy was about to witness something unprecedented. Commander Lisa Foster stood on the bridge of the Xylaran vessel Dawn Seeker, watching as the stars streaked past the view screen. Once a research ship, the Dawn Seeker now carried human-designed weapon systems that hummed with power from Xylaran energy cores. "Commander," called the sensor operator, "we're detecting Draxan signatures approaching Helios colony. 5 warships, heavy class." Lisa's jaw tightened. Helios was home to over 70,000 Xylarans. If it fell like Nilara had, the Draxan Empire would control nearly 20% of Xylaran territory. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Position for defensive formation Delta." Across 28 retrofitted ships, human tactical officers relayed commands to Xylaran captains. The neural translators developed by Dr. Martinez allowed instant communication, eliminating the language barrier that might have slowed their response. Captain Varen, the Xylaran commander of the Dawn Seeker, looked nervous but determined. "The Draxans have not detected us yet. Their sensors are focused on the colony." "Good," Lisa nodded. "Let's keep it that way until we're in position." The Draxan fleet approached Helios colony with confidence. Their previous encounter with Xylaran ships had been almost disappointingly easy. The peaceful aliens had attempted to negotiate even as their vessels were being disabled. On the lead Draxan warship, Commander Krull watched the colony grow larger on his view screen. "Prepare boarding parties," he ordered. "I want this settlement secured within 2 hours." "Sir," his second-in-command reported suddenly, "we're detecting multiple ships approaching from Sector 7. Krull frowned. "Xylaran vessels?" "Yes, but they're moving in a military formation." "Irrelevant." Krull dismissed. "They have no weapons. Proceed as planned." Lisa watched as the Draxan fleet continued their approach, ignoring the Xylaran ships now positioned between them and the colony. "They don't consider us a threat," she observed. "That's our advantage." She turned to the weapons officer, a human named Jason Clark. "Target their lead ship's propulsion systems only." "Weapons locked," Jason confirmed after a moment. Lisa exchanged glances with Captain Varen, who gave a solemn nod. "Fire," Lisa ordered. The hybrid weapon Peter Jackson had developed shot from the Dawn Seeker. It looked like nothing more than a pulse of blue light, but its core contained a human-designed warhead surrounded by a Xylaran energy field that masked its approach. The projectile struck the Draxan warship's engine section. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the massive vessel lurched to one side as its propulsion systems failed. "Direct hit," Jason reported, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. Across the fleet, the other retrofitted Xylaran ships opened fire. Each targeted different systems: communications, weapons, shields, using the element of surprise to maximum effect. Commander Krull staggered as his ship shuddered under the impact. Warning lights flashed across his bridge. "Impossible," he growled. "How are they doing this? Xylaran ships don't have weapons." "Sir, these energy signatures are unlike anything in our database," his tactical officer reported. "They're bypassing our shield harmonics somehow." "Return fire," Krull ordered. The Draxan ships launched a barrage of energy weapons, but the Celeran vessels moved with unexpected agility. Human tactical officers had programmed evasive patterns based on Earth naval combat tactics, completely foreign to Draxan targeting systems. Lisa gripped her console as the Dawn Seeker banked sharply, narrowly avoiding a Draxan energy blast. "Formation Charlie," she commanded. "Focus fire on their flagship." The retrofitted fleet responded with perfect coordination. Celeran precision, combined with human unpredictability, created a fighting force unlike anything the Draxans had encountered before. 2 hours later, it was over. 3 Draxan warships drifted powerless in space. 1 had retreated, engines damaged. The 5th, Commander Krull's flagship, had been captured intact, its systems disabled by the hybrid weapons. Lisa stood in the colony's communication center, transmitting a report to the Celeran homeworld. Behind her, Captain Varen was still processing what had happened. "We actually defeated them," he said in disbelief. "No Celeran force has ever defeated a Draxan battle group." "No purely Celeran force," Lisa corrected him with a small smile. Today wasn't just a Celeran victory. It was a human Celeran victory. As news of the battle spread across subspace channels, species throughout the sector reacted with shock. The Galactic Council called an emergency session, and in a distant Draxan military headquarters, generals stared in disbelief at the battle data, trying to understand how the pacifist Celerans had suddenly become a formidable fighting force. The galaxy had just witnessed the first of many surprises that the unlikely alliance would deliver. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension. Representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations spoke in urgent whispers, sharing information and speculation. The massive holographic display at the center of the room showed footage that had been transmitted across all major communication channels. Celeran ships successfully defending against Draxan warships. Councillor Dreth of the Merlian Confederation leaned toward his aide. "Verify this footage again. It must be falsified." "It's authentic," the aide confirmed reluctantly. "Multiple independent sources have confirmed the battle outcome." The council chair called for order, silencing the chamber. "We have received formal notification from the Draxan Empire. They are mobilizing their reserve fleets and redirecting forces from their outer territories." A collective murmur of concern spread through the chamber. The implications were clear. The Draxans were preparing for full-scale war against the Celeran Human Alliance. Ambassador Lauren Hayes watched from his position on the speaking floor, maintaining a carefully neutral expression. Beside him stood Captain John Murphy, now promoted to Admiral and serving as Earth's official military liaison. "The humans have changed everything," whispered a Kelvin representative to his neighbor. "How did such a primitive species develop weapons that could penetrate Draxan shields?" The council chair addressed the chamber. "Ambassador Hayes, the council requests information about your alliance with Earth. Specifically, we wish to understand the nature of these new weapons." Lauren stepped forward. "What you witnessed was not merely new weapons, but a new approach. Celeran energy technology combined with human tactical systems. Neither civilization could have created this alone. And yet you chose to develop weapons," noted the Vesh representative with obvious disapproval. Admiral Murphy spoke for the first time. "With respect, Counselor, they chose to defend themselves after this council refused to help." The chamber fell silent at the humans' directness. On the Draxan homeworld, Supreme Commander Vargas reviewed the battle reports with growing concern. The holographic displays showed the captured Draxan flagship, now being studied by human and Celeran engineers. How did this happen? He demanded of his generals. The Celerans were defenseless just months ago. General Krull shifted uncomfortably. The human alliance has changed the equation. Their weapon designs are unpredictable. They don't follow standard development patterns. They're primitive apes. Vargas slammed his fist on the table. They barely have interplanetary travel. Yet their military thinking is surprisingly advanced, Krell noted. Our analysts believe they've had thousands of years of continuous warfare on their planet. Their tactical approaches are unlike anything in our database. Vargas considered this new information. Prepare the 7th Fleet. We will launch simultaneous attacks on Earth and the Accelerant homeworld. Cut off both heads of this alliance at once. Back on Earth, President Susan Coleman addressed an emergency session of the United Nations. The once divided body have found unprecedented unity in the face of potential alien aggression. The Draxans will not stop with the Accelerant colonies, she explained. Intelligence from our allies suggests they plan to strike Earth directly. They see us as the greater threat now, the species that arm the Accelerants. Defense Minister Alan Harris presented the latest updates. We've accelerated the retrofit program. 20 Earth naval vessels have been equipped with Accelerant energy systems. They won't reach space, but they can target incoming ships from our atmosphere. In orbit around the Accelerant homeworld, Dr. Olivia Martinez worked frantically with a team of scientists to develop a planetary shield. Combining Earth's missile defense concepts with Accelerant energy field technology, they hope to create a protective barrier that could repel a Draxan assault. The emitter network is at 80%, reported a Accelerant technician. It needs to be at 100 before they arrive. Olivia replied, not looking up from her calculations. The attack came 3 days later. A massive Draxan fleet appearing simultaneously near Earth and Xilara. But the expected easy victory never materialized. Earth's retrofitted naval vessels launched missiles that followed unpredictable patterns. Guided by AI systems the Draxans couldn't counter. Xilara's new planetary shield absorbed the initial bombardment, its energy barriers adapting to each impact. Most surprisingly, ships from 2 previously neutral species arrived to join the defense, the Kelvins and the Morova, both impressed by the Alliance's first victory and unwilling to see the Draxans dominate the sector. After 6 hours of fierce fighting, the Draxan forces retreated from both systems, having lost nearly 40% of their ships. For the first time in centuries, the mighty Draxan Empire had suffered a major military defeat. In the aftermath, Admiral Murphy stood with Ambassador Hayes on the observation deck of the Accelerant defense platform, watching as repair ships tended to damaged vessels. "They'll be back," Murphy said quietly. Hayes nodded. "But they'll return to a different galaxy than the one they're used to. The Kelvins and Morova have joined us. Others will follow." "Why now?" Murphy asked. "These species could have stood against the Draxans before. They needed to see it was possible," Hayes replied. "For centuries, everyone believed the Draxans were invincible. Your people showed them otherwise." As if to confirm his words, a priority message arrived from the Galactic Council. The Alliance was being formally invited to address the full assembly, no longer as supplicants, but as equals. The grand meeting hall of the Galactic Council gleamed with light from 1,000 sources. Representatives from across the galaxy filled the circular chamber, many standing because all seats were taken. Today was historic. The formal signing of the peace treaty between the Draxan Empire and the Alliance of Free Worlds. Ambassador Loren Hayes stood at the center of the chamber, his tall Accelerant form poised with quiet dignity. Beside him, Admiral John Murphy represented Earth, his human frame shorter but carrying an unmistakable strength. Together, they faced the Draxan delegation across the ceremonial table. Supreme Commander Vargas of the Draxan Empire looked distinctly uncomfortable. 6 months of war had cost his people dearly. Their once unstoppable military had suffered defeat after defeat as more species joined the Alliance. "The terms are fair," Loren stated, pushing the document forward. "The Draxan Empire will withdraw from all occupied territories. A demilitarized zone will be established along the borders. Trade routes will remain open to all." Vargas's jaw tightened. The mighty Draxan Empire agrees to these terms not out of weakness, but in recognition of changing galactic realities. Admiral Murphy simply nodded. Everyone present knew the truth. The Draxans had no choice. Their last offensive had ended in disaster when 5 previously neutral species joined the Alliance fleet in defense of a key Accelerant outpost. With visible reluctance, Vargas pressed his hand to the document, officially sealing the Draxan agreement. The chamber erupted in applause and cheers. As the formalities concluded, the council chair approached Lauren and John. "What you've accomplished is remarkable," she admitted. "When you first came to us warning of the Draxan threat, we dismissed you. For that, I offer the council's apology." Lauren inclined his head graciously. "The past cannot be changed, but the future can be built on better understanding." Later, at the celebration held in the Alliance headquarters, representatives from 17 species mingled together. Species that had once barely acknowledged each other's existence now discussed joint scientific expeditions, cultural exchanges, and shared defense protocols. Dr. Olivia Martinez watched with satisfaction as Celeran scientists demonstrated medical technology to physicians from 3 different worlds. The healing arts that had once been mocked as weakness were now among the most sought-after knowledge in the galaxy. Engineer Peter Jackson stood nearby, deep in conversation with a Kelvin ship designer. "The hybrid propulsion system increases efficiency by 40%, he explained, pointing to a holographic schematic. "We never would have discovered this integration without the war forcing us to innovate." Across the room, Ambassador Hayes found a quiet moment with Admiral Murphy. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when we first met?" Lauren asked. John shook his head. "I was just trying to understand why aliens had suddenly appeared near Earth. I certainly didn't expect to help reshape galactic politics." "Your people changed everything," Lauren said quietly. "Not just by fighting for us, but by showing the galaxy a different way forward. Strength and compassion together." "And your people taught us plenty in return," John replied. Earth was headed down a dangerous path of conflict. The Celeran influence has already changed how we see ourselves. Their conversation was interrupted as the Galactic Council chair called for attention. The room fell silent as she began her address. "Today marks more than just peace," she announced. "It represents a new beginning for our galactic community. The Council has unanimously voted to restructure itself. No longer will decisions be made solely by the oldest and most technologically advanced civilizations." Murmurs of surprise spread through the gathering. "The Human-Celeran Alliance has demonstrated that true strength comes from diversity of thought and approach," she continued. "Therefore, the Council will now include representatives from all spacefaring species, regardless of their development level." As she finished speaking, Admiral Murphy leaned toward Lauren. "I think we've started something bigger than either of us intended." Lauren smiled. "When I first sought human help, I only hoped to save my people from conquest. I never imagined we would transform the galaxy." Across the room, a young Celeran diplomat was speaking with an Earth representative, their easy friendship symbolic of the new reality. Other species watched them with newfound respect. The peaceful philosophers and the warrior newcomers who had together accomplished what no one thought possible. The galaxy that had once laughed at the Celerans now looked to them and their human allies for leadership. And in that unexpected partnership, a new era of galactic cooperation had begun. One built on the understanding that true strength comes not from dominance, but from the bonds forged between different worlds.